All right, we're sitting down here with Rian Simpson, otherwise known aka DJ Raintree.
Yes.
Tell us who Rian is.
I grew up Gladstone, Oregon. I went to graduated. During that time, I learned music. And so I started out when I was 8 years old. I learned piano, took that for about a year or two, and then moved on to guitar. When I joined fifth grade, you couldn't play guitar in fifth grade unless you were extremely talented. And so I moved on to percussion and drums and all that is involved in that, and really rode that out through senior year. I took a class that was about, independent music pursuit. So I learned like bass and saxophone and a bunch of other. And I went to college for audio producing, like recording and engineering. I discovered that Portland is like the mecca for independent recording studios. There's more. I was looking for something to do, and it kind of fell into my lap, DJing did. And so I was at a buddy's bar, and he had a guy who was there that was subpar, as we like to say now. All his clientele didn't like the way this guy was mixing music, and as we call it, train wrecking in the industry.
Yeah.
He was just, mashing stuff as hard as possible over and over again the whole night, and people were just tired of it. He came to me and he said, I know you play music, and he said, I don't know if there's anything you could do that'd be better than this, but could you figure something out? I started to learn the basics of DJing through that. And one Friday or Saturday night, my buddy Nick walked in, and Nick said, hey, I got a guy who owns a company. And so then he introduced me to a guy, and that kind of took off from there. I got into weddings and corporate events. And I think that first year I was with that guy, I did 150 events 9 years ago now. So it's been a crazy time. But yeah, that's kind of just the generalization of what I've done.
What's your DJ style like? How do you like to mix and DJ so they can understand you a little bit more?
The terminology that most people don't know is open format. When open format means that basically nothing's off the table. I grew up I played in the country band, I played in the metal band, I played in punk band. I've listened to classic rock, I've listened to all these, rap and hip hop. I've learned the art form to do so. Going seamlessly between like a rock song to a country song to a pop song, and just making it sound like it's an even flow. Obviously, I came from turntablism, like using turntables. So I do add the cool tricks that we all know, and scratching and making it sound cool. But for the most part, the idea is just to make it flow the whole night. From the time we start to the time we end, I want it to kind of sound like one continuous track.
You brought up one thing with like club style or scratching. You just mentioned scratching and stuff like that. Maybe that's not necessarily the format for a wedding, but they do want to party. But where do you find the fine line between too much, not enough, or how do you apply it so that way it's professional and classy?
So I apply the scratching more of like I use my hands almost like a way to create extra drum sounds with my scratch. So I'm adding in like kick drum beats, the DMC world champion of scratching. It's like guys literally for 4.5 minutes straight, just, like over and over again. That's not what I'm doing at weddings.
Who's your ideal client? Like, who is your ideal couple to work with? Describe them.
The best clients I've had are people who love to dance to high energy. I'm personally a product of the 90s, so I love to spin 90s hip hop or early 2000s, like Usher, that club vibe from the early mid 2000s. Not a huge fan of slow songs. I see that they have their place in a wedding, obviously, because your 90-year-old grandma can't fist bump to Get Low. We know what you do. We know you kill it. They've heard my work on recordings. As someone whose vision was fulfilled, if they literally wanted 13 slow songs in 3 hours and that was like their vibe, I would still accomplish it, because it's not about me, it's about them.
But we sometimes get that couple that just doesn't totally know. They maybe just don't have the clearest vision on what they want yet. How do you work with them?
Asking a lot of questions, figuring out what styles they actually do like. Maybe some of their favorite artists, narrowing down their personality types, and then maybe a little bit of like what your family likes. Maybe we should focus on what's going to get the most people to have the most amount of fun.
There's many, and there's dozens and dozens and other DJs out there with tons of experience. Why you?
I think why me is just knowing that you're going to get someone who puts in that 100% every time. I started playing my music when I was 8, and I'm 34. When you do have as much experience as I have, you meet so many different people. I was thinking the other day, I've done a wedding with like almost every culture, it seems like. I've done the Latino wedding, I've done a Chinese and Japanese people getting married together. So that's two cultures in one. From being a DJ for 10 years and also performing as an artist before that. That's something that happens, is you meet so many different people, and we're always networking. So we're meeting, make everyone have the best time.